Yes, welcome into SportsBIT. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Thursday, March 16th, big game breakdown. We'll tackle four of the games coming up on Friday, and we'll get to play of the day as well. Big show coming up. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books in a second. I guess I didn't want to call it a tough beat, Teddy. USC never in doubt, right? What is it about these first four games? It's the third time in a first four a team's been down 17. They've won the game.
Sure, and they've all look. They've been good games. They've been competitive games. So there's been a lot of criticism for the first four product. At least it was entertaining. And hey, we cashed a ticket with the Trojans, as you mentioned. Never in doubt.
What do you think moving forward? That they lead the nation with 12 wins when they're down double digits. Why do they keep putting themselves in this position?
Well, I mean, that's obviously the bigger question. That's why USC is not competing for championships this year. They will consider this a very successful run if they win another game. You know, frankly, they won one game. I mean, how much do you expect from the Trojans right here? They're not an elite ball club, but they're good enough to beat Providence, and maybe they're good enough to make some noise over the course of the next couple of days.
Yeah, rematch. Already beat SMU earlier in the year. Bad bets. Hornets stink. We've talked about this many times on SportsBIT. This is a bad team right now. They lost 98-77. Pacers bet up from 1.5 to 3.
And the Pacers are about as predictable as it gets right now. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. They can win at home. They get clocked on the road. Indiana does get a very rare point spread cover on the second night of back-to-backs. That's one thing they haven't done well, but returning home off a loss. You know, the spot was all Indiana. The money was all Indiana. Pacers bet from -1.5 to -3. That was not a good result for the books.
Some big losses in the NBA last night. A lot of character for the Blazers after they were embarrassed in New Orleans. They beat the Spurs on the road. Golden State now back in control of the 1 seed.
Yeah, sure. And again, the race for the 1 seed, it's something that the talking heads are going to talk about. It's not anything that's meaningful in any way, shape, or form. The Spurs don't care about the 1 seed. The Warriors don't care about the 1 seed. The only thing either one of those two teams cares about is going into the playoffs relatively healthy. But for Portland, you're absolutely right. That was a character win, a gut check win for a team off a real no-show the previous night. They stepped up, got the road win at San Antonio. Kudos to the Blazers backers, especially those of you who had them on the money line.
And tough for the Wizards, too. Lost at home to Dallas. What a job Carlisle's done this year.
Sure, but now it's back-to-back losses. After those back-to-back come-from-way-behind overtime wins on that road trip, when they got started off 4-0 on the road trip. Remember we had a big buy sign on Milwaukee for a little while, and the Bucks lost that string of, they had a brutal loss and another one and another one. And I'm like, the buy sign is off because the confidence isn't there. The Wizards, the energy they exerted in those back-to-back come-from-behind OT wins, I'm a little bit concerned about Washington right now. I do not have the same level of buy on the Wizards that I've had for the better part of the last 2 months.
Jump on board. Get on this train, Teddy. Fade the Lakers the rest of the season. They get blown out in Houston. They shut down Mozgov and Deng for the rest of the year. That could actually be a good thing. They can't play. And 1 point spread cover in 10 games since the break. Look at the schedule. They could lose out.
Oh, they could easily lose out. And again, they didn't even come close. They didn't come close to covering plus 13 at Denver on Tuesday. They didn't come close to covering plus 17.5 at Houston on Wednesday. Lost those games by 28 and 39. And, I mean, the Lakers were competitive against the Rockets. They were competitive into the third quarter. But when the opposing team makes their run against the Lakers right now, LA's just putting their head down. You can make money betting against tankers. And as you mentioned, when a team's got one cover in the last 10 games since the break, the line hasn't caught up with how bad the Lakers really are just yet.
Yeah, you're right about that. The tankers, good job there. The dogs are barking in the NIT again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dogs went 6-2 against the spread on Tuesday, and all 6 dogs that covered won the game in straight-up fashion. And then last night, what do we have? Belmont took a bunch of money, +7 down to +5. They won outright at Georgia. Akron took money, +8 down to +7.5. They win outright at Houston. Fresno with a wire-to-wire cover at TCU. I mean, it was, and of course, you know, UT Arlington. The dogs have been barking in the NIT, and moneyline bettors have done very well so far.
Little hijinks here in this one, point spread hijinks. Tough beat, not a bad beat, because they were down 20 for most of the second half. Greensboro plus 12.5 against Syracuse. Fouled down 11 with 19 seconds. Syracuse hit them both.
Oh, yeah, Andrew White. Swish, swish. And the plus 12.5 turns into a, oh, no, because they lost by 13. But, I mean, Greensboro wasn't the right side in that ball game. That's why we call it a tough beat, not a bad beat.
What happened in the Colorado game?
Insanity. I mean, Colorado was not the right side there either. They're down 12 with a minute left, and they cut that lead all the way to 2. UCF was missing free throw after free throw. I think they missed 17 or 18 free throws in the game. They shot 53% from the charity stripe, but UCF was missing free throws, and the Buffs get hitting threes. You know, all of a sudden, it's a 2-point game, and then they hit 1 or 2 free throws to make it a 3-point game, and then they foul with 3 seconds left. Colorado does. A.J. Davis, much like Andrew White for Syracuse, A.J. Davis for UCF, hit them both. They win by 5. That's 3.5-point chalk. The foul with 3 seconds left is just brutal, Pauly.
All right, and this from USA Today, 2017 March Madness by the numbers. 70 million, throw that graphic up, 70 million brackets to be completed. $10 billion. Total March Madness bets, 97% of it illegally.
Yeah, and of course, this is actually from the American Gaming Association. I got it from the USA Today website. But it's the numbers that are running around Washington right now as they continue to lobby and try to get something done in terms of sports betting legalized in a broader spectrum, or at least state by state. And these are the type of numbers that we have to talk about. $10.4 billion, okay, estimated by the AGA to be bet during March Madness. And the U.S. government, tax revenue off that $10.4 billion, not happening.
Up next, big game breakdown. Let's get to Friday's games and the play of the day on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBIT, Pauly and Teddy, Betting Insight today. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. Big game breakdown. Friday's games. Here we go, 4 of them. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Friday night, 6:50 Pacific, TBS, Marquette, South Carolina. South Carolina, 1.5, 145 the total. Sometimes games are all about matchups. Marquette, number 8 in offense against the number 3 defense. South Carolina, 150 on offense against the 155th ranked defense in Marquette. And the game's in Greenville, too.
So the Gamecocks are supposed to have some sort of a home court edge here. The question is, how much, and is it going to matter? Because Marquette, I mean, they're a one-trick pony. They're number 1 in the nation in three-point shooting percentage. If the Eagles are hitting threes, there's not a whole lot that any team is going to do to stop them, even an elite defensive team like South Carolina. That being said, the Gamecocks defense, number 5 in the country at defending from the three-point line. So you have Marquette's strength right into South Carolina's strength. And in general in these spots, I mean, what do you think? Do you like the team that shoots the three well, or do you like the team that defends the three well, Pauly?
Yeah, I want the team that shoots it well. And you know, it's a typical Frank Martin team as well. Legit defense, but they struggle to score. They're number 3 in defensive efficiency, number 12 in effective field goal percentage, number 4 in turnover percentage. But the issues on offense, these are hideous numbers, Teddy.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they have Sindarius Thornwell. Okay, he's a creator. He averaged 21 points a game. So they have a go-to guy during crunch time. Nobody else on the team can shoot a lick. And as you mentioned, truly ugly numbers. How about this? All right, we talked about the defense. That's number 3 in the country in efficiency, number 12 in effective field goal, number 4 in turnover percentage. That's defense. Offense, they're number 315 in effective field goal percentage, number 318 on the two-pointers, number 245 on three-pointers. Those are legitimately ugly offensive numbers for South Carolina.
Marquette turned their season around when Wojo changed lineups against Xavier, wanted to get more energy and defense on the court. That meant seniors Fisher and Johnson coming off the bench, and they needed some added punch there. But here's the conundrum. They beat Xavier twice and Creighton once in the closing stretch, but as you know, they were out key players. They both had injuries. So was Marquette getting better, or did they catch these teams at the right time as they were losing stars off their team and they limped to the finish line?
Well, what did we say on yesterday's show? We said, I kind of think the Big East is a little bit overrated going into this tournament. We didn't say a little bit. We said a lot. And what did we do? We cashed a play of the day winner, betting against Providence. All right. I know Marquette's put up some good numbers, but I also know that Xavier's 3-7 in their last 10, and 2 of the wins came against DePaul, and that Creighton is sub 500 since Watson got hurt. So I'm not sold on Marquette's big run in the Big East to get into the big dance, but at least they believe, that they're getting better. A squad that wasn't anywhere near elite early in the season, that came on like a freight train down the stretch, and mentally, they're like, yeah, we have gotten better. And sometimes that's what matters most. Younger players set the tone with hustle, and then you got the veterans in Fisher and Johnson coming off the bench that give them a little adding scoring punch and a veterans mentality. So I'm not sold on Marquette here, but this is a game that we're interested in. We're going to get back to this one when it comes to play of the day time.
Yes, we do. Game number 2, live odds, sportsbookreview.com, Rhode Island and Creighton. Pick 'em, 141.5 the total. 1:30 Pacific on TBS. If South Carolina Marquette was all about matchups, so is this one. Creighton number 3 in effective field goal percentage. Rhode Island D number 9 against. Creighton number 13 in three-point percentage against the Rhode Island defense, which is number 2. Creighton 6th in two-point field goal percentage against the Rhode Island defense, which is 36th. Great numbers here.
Yeah. Oh, no question. I mean, and then again, fascinating matchups. But, I mean, defending the Blue Jays is not just about defending their excellent offensive tactics. This is also a team that can create mismatch problems. They have 6'11", Justin Patton. He brings a ton of versatility for his size. He can score inside. He can score outside. He can handle the basketball. And he's likely to be on his way to the NBA next year. But again, this is a Creighton team from a conference that we don't like, that we think is overrated. They went 7-8 in their last 15 games after losing the point guard, Maurice Watson. So those full season brilliant numbers on offense, yeah, they didn't tank offensively after Watson got hurt, but they weren't as good on that end of the floor. And even with the lofty numbers, 13 in the country in 3-point shooting, 12, number 6 in the country in 2-point shooting percentage. Even with those numbers, I'm not sold on them in a matchup like this one.
Okay, and so then you have Rhode Island. They don't have any NBA players, but they have great chemistry, and led by Danny Hurley, their coach. They did a good job down. Remember, they hit rock bottom mid-February. They lost 53-43 as a 13.5-point favorite at home against Fordham. They didn't look like an NIT team at that point. Then 8-0 straight up and 6-2 ATS the rest of the way. Beat VCU twice in that stretch. Got healthy, and this is clearly a team, a classic team, peaking at the right time.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rhode Island, they get decent balance. E.C. Matthews scores 14.9 points per game. Hassan Martin, 14.1. Jared Terrell, 12.5. So they're not a one-trick pony when it comes to the offensive end of the court. But the most important thing about Rhode Island, and again, something that is not, in my mind, fully factored into this point spread, this is a team that had a ton of injuries. They were never healthy. They could never get everybody on the court at the same time. And all of a sudden, late February into March, all the pieces have come together. And Rhode Island, a team whose full season powering number, in my mind, doesn't reflect how good a team they actually are right now.
All right, excellent. Up next, Michigan State, Miami, and Cincinnati, Kansas State in the play of the day on SportsBIT. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping up on SportsBIT Betting Insight today. We finish it out here Thursday. Big game breakdown rolls on. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Miami, Michigan State, 6:20 Pacific, TNT. Miami 2, 125.5 the total. One of the running SportsBIT's themes this season. Sparty has good young talent, but a different kind of talent, Teddy. We're accustomed to maybe a 3 or 4 seed, even better with the Spartans. Not the case this year.
No, I mean, what do we expect from Tom Izzo's teams? We expect good ball handling, leadership at point guard, right? Well, this year, Spartans number 310 in the nation in turnover percentage. What do we expect as much as anything from Michigan State? We expect solid physical play on the offensive rebounds. I mean, the Sparty, year in, year out, dominant on the offensive glass. This year, number 180 in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. We expect Michigan State to play tenacious defense, forcing teams out of what they do best. This year, Sparty, number 313 in the nation in turnover percentage forced. So the point guard play hasn't been there. The offensive rebounding hasn't been there. The turnovers and defensive acumen hasn't been there. And when we talk about Izzo in March and the good Izzo teams and the Izzo teams that go on runs, these aren't the stats we see out of those type of squads. They have good ball skills, but given the youth, it's 3 freshmen starting, this team's been developing in a different way. And frankly, a team that over the years you've made a ton of money betting on down the stretch. This year they've been money losers. That hasn't changed going into the big dance.
Miami has some of those old school tools Sparta usually brings. Newton, tough point guard, doesn't mind mixing up. Remember they went 3-0 when he was out. Love Larinaga as a head coach. They got that confidence boost in mid-season when they won those games when he was out. But, they lost to North Carolina in the ACC tournament. I think the schedule caught up with them, drained a little bit. I'm not concerned about that. And they got some rest as a result of the loss. Did not have a home game after February 25th. Had to play tourney teams Virginia Tech and Florida State on the road to close out the regular season. This is a underrated team, in my opinion.
Sure, and the irony, of course, is that Izzo, the name Izzo brings, Izzo. Larinaga's Izzo. I swear, in terms of coaching acumen, he's the guy that took when teams like George Mason had never made a Final Four run. Larinaga did that, okay? His Miami teams, talent-wise, they've never been the most talented team in that conference, not even close. Larinaga is an X's and O's genius. He is a really bet-on coach in these type of games, and I love him in point spread ranges like this one. Izzo might have the bigger reputation, but at this stage, I'm not going to diss Izzo, but don't sell Miami short. They're chalk here for a reason.
All right, last game. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. 425 Pacific, True TV, Cincinnati and K-State. Bearcats, 3.5, 130.5 the total. Kansas State gets a break of an added day off Tuesday with the Tuesday win. Smart move by the tourney committee in that one. But here is an excellent team, well, at least a team that has a lot of balance with Kansas State, a lot of different guys that can score.
Well, yeah, and I thought, that first point you're making, where there used to be a situation where the team that played on Tuesday would play on Thursday. And that kind of gives an edge to a seed that doesn't deserve it. Cincinnati's a 6th seed. They haven't earned an added edge. So the fact that Kansas State gets an extra day to acclimate and get prepared for the Bearcats, in my mind, it makes it fair. It's a good move, as you mentioned, by the tournament committee. What do we see from Kansas State against Wake? Exactly what we've seen from Kansas State all year long. The balance has been there. Wundu scored 24. Stokes at 22. Johnson 18. Brown 14. And that's exactly what they did in the regular season. All 4 of them averaged between 11.5 and 13 points per game. But we talk about Kansas State. It's not about their offense. It's about their defense. And that defensive pressure. Bruce Schwepper's squad, number 18 in the country in percentage of turnovers forced. Number 16 in percentage of steals. But I wonder if the fact they're playing Cincinnati negates that, because you know what? The Bearcats, they don't turn the ball over. Top 10 team in the country in terms of fewest turnover percentage on offense, and number 1 in the country in terms of fewest steals allowed on the offensive end of the court. So K-State's edge somewhat negated against the Cincinnati team.
It's a team we've talked about a lot on the Google Hangout, and we like this team because it's a Mick Cronin team that can suddenly score. And why the surge in offense and why have they been so improved on offense this year? Cronin, in the offseason, hung out with Mike Bray, and he learned some of their Notre Dame schemes.
He sure did. Here's a quote from Cronin, quote, "We should never force the ball to anybody because we don't have to. All we need to do is make sure we're sharing the ball, break down the defense, and the open man shoots." And when you look at the numbers, this is a defense that has, over the last 3 years in particular, look at where they were in 2015, improvements in 2016, big improvement here in 2017. And look, Mike Bray is not a bad guy to learn lessons from. This is a team that used to win with defense, but they got the point guard in Cal Payne, and everyone else they've learned it can be fun to win on the offensive end of the court as well. Cincy, a team that I wasn't in love with coming into the tournament, but you know what? The more I looked at this matchup, the less I like K-State. If I'm playing this one, Pauly, I'm laying.
There it is. Very good. Money time. Play of the day. How about a total? Let's go back to South Carolina and Marquette. We got some steam here.
Oh, yeah, the steam move on Wednesday. They got this one right. There's still value at this number, however. We're going to look at game number 819, 820. South Carolina, Marquette, under 145. Again, this is a late game on Friday, 6:50 p.m. South Carolina's defense is a match for any team. I mean, that's going to bring culture shock to Marquette on the first look. But we can also rely on the Gamecocks to throw up their fair share of bricks. Look for South Carolina Marquette to stay under the total. That's our play of the day.
All right. Well, Teddy's got you covered tonight. The Google Hangout, 8 o'clock Pacific. 4 games going on at the same time. Teddy's got all the games fired up as well. Fire away with your questions. And we're back Friday to close it out. Round 2 previews coming up when the weekend preview. Going to be a loaded show when we recap what goes on in the first round as well. Looking forward to tomorrow's show coming up on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.